Hello everyone, this is Divesh Goyal, a practicing company secretary from Delhi. So I welcome you all of you on the webinar on MSME 1. So we have already done one webinar on the MSME 1, but I have received so many queries from the professional on this specific topic. So we are again having one more webinar today for the more discussion on that, we can say specifically for the queries of the MSME 1. So let's start our this webinar on a good note. As we are already, today is already 25th April, and the due date for the MSME 1 is 30th April. So there is already almost 5 days are there for the filing of the MSME 1 form. So we all should be aware about all the provision of the MSME, and whatever queries, whatever issues we are facing, we should discuss this today in this webinar so that we can resolve it in a good manner and can take the benefit from this webinar. So MSME 1. We know the MSME Act. MSME Act came into 2006. Since 2006, we are having the provision of the MSME under our Act. But the provision of the specifically, we can say MSME 1 came into effect from the 2019. Ministry of Corporate Affairs has issued a notification on the MSME 1 form in 2019. I just show you the same. And after the last webinar, so many person has asked for the copy of the presentation. So I have uploaded my whole presentation on the MSME 1 on this my blog, that is csveshgol.com, which is in front of you. So if anyone have any query and want to read the presentation, it is available here. So section 405. Section 405 states about the MSME 1. Except section 405, no other section of the Companies Act talk about the MSME 1. Under section 405, Ministry came with a circular. Through this circular in 2019, they came up with the provision of the MSME 1 form. So MSME 1 form was not there before 2019, but now as this form has already been launched by the ministry in 2019, now this form is required to file by the corporates, or we can say companies, on which applicable every half year. For the half year, April to September, the due date is 31st October. And for the period October to March, the due date is 30th April. So this is the form under Companies Act, which we have to file every half year. Generally, under Companies Act, maximum forms required to file yearly. But MSME 1 and second is the PS6. These are the two type of form which we have to file half yearly under the Companies Act. So this form MSME 1 is specifically related with the MSME Act 2006 and more specifically relating to the section 15 and section 16 of the MSME Act. If any one of you have already read the section 15 and 16 of the MSME Act, you will understand the reason behind this form. Because many times this question arises, why ministry launched this form? Actually, the purpose of launching of this form was the transparency regarding the MSME transaction. Because I'm just giving a brief view. MSME Act, that is MSME Act 2006, giving a shelter to the micro and small vendor registered under MSME, that if a vendor is registered under MSME Act, then it is liability of the other party to pay to the MSME registered vendor within 45 days. Generally, law says about the 15 days. If no terms and condition is agreed between the buyer and seller, then they have to make the payment within 15 days. But if the terms and condition are agreed, then maximum they can stretch is up to the 45 days, as mentioned under section 15. A buyer must make payment to the supplier within 45 days from the acceptance or deemed acceptance of good. Many times we have seen when we discuss this thing in the seminars and through the client. Yesterday, I was in a seminar in the Hisar ICSI. So one question I received from the member there, what if a company have already entered into an agreement with the vendor that they will make payment within 80 days, 90 days, 120 days, as per their convenience, but after 45 days, what is the validity of that agreement? So as per section 15 of the Act, if even if a company enter into an agreement with vendor for payment after 45 days, still they have to make the payment in 45 days, because that agreement will be void after 45 days, because this act is very much particular about the 45 days and payment to the vendor within 45 days. So we have to be make sure if we are entering into any transaction with the MSME vendor, we have to make payment to such MSME vendor within 45 days. Because doesn't matter we are having an agreement or not, 45 days is the maximum time period we have to make the payment. So this concept is totally adopted by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs in the MSME 1 form. So let's discuss the first and very important question. Who is required to file the MSME 1 form? Before moving further, I just want to say one thing to everyone. Whoever is online and whoever will join this webinar, please be online throughout the webinar, because at the end of the webinar, after discussion of the provision, I will show you how to fill practically the Excel sheet and how to file this form practically. So please be online so that you can take the benefit of whatever we will discuss in this webinar. So most important question, which is in front of everyone, who is required to file MSME form? So whether your company is required to file MSME 1 form or not, first you have to check whether the company has received goods or services from the supplier who are registered under the MSME. सबसे पहले हमें ये चेक करना है कि जिस वेंडर से हम गुड्स ले रहे हैं, सर्विसेज ले रहे हैं, क्या वो एमएसएमई में रजिस्टर है भी या नहीं है. If the vendor, for an example, if we are having a 500 vendor, out of 500, not even a single vendor is registered under MSME in the criteria of the micro and small, then we don't have to file this form. This form is required to file only when at least we are having a single vendor who is registered under micro or small category of the MSME Act 2006. So we have to check this first thing. Now, second, many times people ask, as we know, under the Udyam registration, now the traders can also register themselves under the MSME Act for certain benefits. So if one of my vendor is not into the manufacturing and neither into the services, but they are registered under the trading as a trader, whether transaction with them is required to mention under MSME 1 Act, MSME 1 form, the answer will be no. Because Ministry has specifically issued MSME under the MSME Act, Ministry has specifically issued a circular last year. In that circular, they specifically said the MSME traders who register under MSME Act will not get benefit of this 45 days. Means they will not get the benefit of the Section 15. If Ministry is not giving them the benefit of Section 15, that is 45 days, then definitely we will also not consider them for the purpose of the MSME 1 form. So make sure whenever you are finding out whether your vendor is registered under an MSME or not, you don't have to consider the traders. You just have to consider the manufacturers and the service provider. So this is the first check. If I say in the first check, yes, I am having a vendor who is registered under micro and small, then I have to check the second thing, whether I have to file this form or not. Now, before going further, I just tell you there is a very much ambiguity between the provision of the Companies Act and between the form which is launched on the MCA V3 portal, because the provision, the section 405 and the circular which issued in 2019, the provision is specifically saying this form is required to file by the company who is having the MSME vendor and company made delayed in payment of that vendor more than 45 days. Whether company paid them after 45 days during the half year, or whether their payment is outstanding more than 45 days at the end of the half year. In these two conditions, as per section 405 read with the circular, in these two conditions, company have to file the MSME 1 form. As I have mentioned also, the payment to such MSME supplier is outstanding more than 45 days from the date of the acceptance or deemed acceptance. The payment made to MSME supplier after 45 days from the date of acceptance. So if we have made the payment within 45 days, or it is not outstanding more than 45 days on 31st March at the end of the half year, we don't have to file this form as per the section 405 and the relevant circular. And we were following this practice in the V2 version when this form was on the V2 version. But now Ministry have changed the portal from the V2 version to the V3 version. When they have changed the portal from the V2 version to the V3 version, along with the portal, they have changed a lot of things. That means now only portal is not changed. Along with the portal, so many other things has also been changed by the Ministry. Generally, as a professional, we have read the interpretation of statutes. Generally, as per the interpretation of statutes, the section override the rules and form. So if legally we will go, definitely we have to follow the section. But these days, when this V3 portal has launched, so many times we have seen that form is overriding the act. So now it is our choice whether we want to go with the section only or whether we have following the rules also. Because I just tell you what, as per the MSME V3 version form, In this four situation, company have to file the MSME form. Number one, when the vendor is registered under micro and small and whom payment has been made during the half year within 45 days. Logically, if a company have already made the payment to the vendor within 45 days, there is no default under MSME Act. So if there is no default under MSME Act, practically this information is having no relevance for the ministry also under MSME 1 form. But now they are asking for this information in MSME 1 form. I will show you the practical also. Situation 2. The micro small vendor to whom payment has been done during the half year, but after 45 days. I agree for this thing. As per section 15, as the company have made the payment to the MSME vendor after 45 days, so definitely they should get a shelter and they are eligible for the interest also. So we should cover this in our form. Now condition 3, micro small vendor whose payment is outstanding at the end of the half year, but 45 days are not yet over. If at the end of the half year, 45 days is not over, then it is not a default for the company under MSME Act. So practically this should not be part of the form, but as V3 version form is asking for the same. Fourth, micro small vendor whose payment is outstanding at the end of half year, 45 days is over. This condition is completely okay. So if we read the section 405 with the circular, as per that, if we are falling under category number 2 and category number 4, then definitely we have to file this form. But as per V3 form, we have to file this form in all these 4 conditions. So until unless ministry came with any amendment in this form or ministry came with any circular for the amendment, for the clarification, we have to file this form with all these 4 information. Even in the yesterday seminar and through the WhatsApp group, so many people is asking, what if we don't file this form in the condition number 1 or 3? Because that is not as per the Act. So see, practically, you are following the law, you are following the section 405, and you file the form only for point number 2 and 4. There is no legal, we can say, default. But in any case, in future, if you receive any notice or penalty notice from the ministry or the ROC, then you have to mention them in the reply. You have to give the bifurcation. You have to give the interpretation of the law in that letter. Then only you will be able to clarify them the thing. So this is totally your choice, whether you want to file this form as per the provision of the section 405 or whether you want to file this form as per the instruction kit or this Excel sheet. If you file this form with the according to the Excel sheet, in that case, even if you are having a single vendor registered under MSME, you have to file this form because this form is covering every type of transaction with the micro and small vendor. But as per Act, only in that situation you have to file the form when there is a pending more than 45 days or you have made payment after 45 days. So this is the provision. Why I'm discussing this again and again, because maximum people are confused in this and I'm receiving question regular basis on this. So as per the form or as per the Excel sheet, if I will ask one question, if I will discuss one question which I have received so many times, even if company is having the nil outstanding at the end of the half year to a MSME vendor, whether MSME 1 form is required to be filed. As per section, no. But as per this V3 version form and Excel sheet, yes, even if there is a nil outstanding, means the company have made the payment during the half year within 45 days, still you have to file this form. So now it is totally your choice, which you want, which you process you want to follow, the section or the kit or the form given on the V3 version. Then the point came, what is the fees for this form? So practically, whenever we file the MSME 1, there is no fees. MSME 1 is a nil fees form, and this is one of the one type of the form. Except MSME 1 under Companies Act, there is only CSR 2 form, which is asking for the nil fees. Otherwise, every form having the fees under Companies Act. One thing I want to say, everyone, whoever is online on this webinar, please mention your queries in the chat box. So whatever queries will be there, I will try my best to answer those queries so that it can help everyone. So please mention your queries in the chat box. So after the discussion, I will take up each and every query from everyone. So the next point, what if a company does not file MSME 1 form or file MSME 1 form after due date? What are the consequences? Generally, what happens whenever we file a form after due date, we have to pay the additional fees. And we are having a mind makeup also. If we file after 45 after due date, there is no issue. We just have to pay the additional fees, but that is not a complete answer. As per the Companies Act, whenever a company file any form after due date, if you file any form after due date, along with additional fees, you are liable for the penalties also. So same with the MSME 1 form also. If you file MSME 1 form after due date, you are practically, you don't have to pay additional fees under MSME 1 form, but there are penalties which you may have to pay under section 450. So make sure that you file MSME 1 form within due date. Otherwise, there are the heavy penalties. Even I am referring one case law also, Samsung RD Institute India Bangalore Private Limited. In this case, company filed two MSME with delay for the period April to September 2022 and October to March 2022-23. Company filed this form with the delay of 266 days and 85 days. Then ROC Bangalore imposed the penalty on the company 2,85,000 and on the director 2,85,000, 2,85,000 for the one form, and on other form 1,04,000, 1,04,000. So just for a delay in filing of one form, company have to pay lakhs of penalty. So make sure whenever you are filing MSME 1, you file it in the within time. If you file after the due date, then you may liable for the penalties also. On it's okay that there is no additional fees, but there are penalties. So now let's discuss the MSME sheet, because this is a very important sheet. I have one thing to discuss with everyone. Whenever you try to prepare MSME 1 form, you have to go to the MSME V3 portal. One, you have to log in on the MSME V3 portal and you have to click on the MSME 1. When you click on the MSME 1 and fill the basic information, then there is the option to download Excel. Once you will click on the download Excel, this Excel sheet which is on your screen will be downloaded. Make sure to do one thing. When you download the Excel sheet, go into the properties of that Excel and click on this unlock button. I'm just showing you, click on this unlock button like this and apply and okay. Because I have received query from the many professionals if they are downloading the Excel sheet, but Excel sheet is password protected. Excel sheet is not allowing them to mention the data. So that is happening only because you are not clicking on the unlock button in the properties. So if you are getting that error, please go into the properties, click on the unlock button and apply and okay, and then save the file so that you will be able to fill the information. Now let's see how we have to fill the information. Serial number, name of supplier. Let me discuss here some point which is very important for everyone. In V2 version, if for a single vendor, for example, I am a Goyal Division associate, I am having a vendor Mr. A, Mr. B and Mr. C. For the Mr. A, I am having more than 5 invoices for which I have to mention information here. In V2 version, what we are doing, we were mentioning each and every invoice separately, like serial number 1, first invoice, then second invoice, then third invoice. But this is not the same structure in V3 version. In V3 version, all the invoices of the one vendor shall be mentioned into the single entry. Means vendor is Mr. A. You will mention here Mr. A. Pen of the Mr. A. Now, if you mention the pen of Mr. A more than one time in this Excel sheet, then this Excel sheet will not get uploaded into MSME 1 form. So one vendor, one time you can mention here. Make sure all the invoices of the one vendor you have to club and accordingly you have to fill the form. I just tell you how. Then once you will mention the information here, reach on the paid within 45 days. This is the first column. As I said, this was not a requirement of the section 405, but this is the requirement of this Excel sheet. So we have to fill. Paid within 45 days, two option, through threads और other modes. अब threads क्या होता है मैं थोड़ा बेसिक सा बता देता हूँ. Threads एक RBI का पोर्टल है. RBI ने MSME vendors को एक फैसिलिटी दी है. If they want their payment earlier, more before 45 days earlier, they want to get their payment, they can upload their invoice on the threads portal. There is a process they have to follow and they can get the payment from the threads. Whatever the interest threads is charging, they will charge. So this portal is to facilitate the vendors. But generally, I have seen 99% people are not using this. They go to the other mode of payment by the making payment. Here are the two options, number, other mode of payment and amount. Now, what is the meaning of this number? So meaning of this number is, means, for example, from the Mr. A, I have done the transaction in the half year and we are having the 20 invoice from the Mr. A. After 20 invoice, 5 invoice I have paid within 45 days. So I have to mention here number 5 and mention the amount of those 5 invoices. Then the second column E, paid after 45 days. Paid after 45 days. So definitely this should be here because this is the reason for the MSME Act. So same here, number, how many invoices I have paid after 45 days, I will mention here invoice number and club that amount and mention here invoice amount of that. Outstanding for 45 days or less. Now, the invoices as on 31st March, as many invoices on the 31st March are the outstanding. Out of that, which is less than 45 days, I will mention here the number and the amount. Outstanding more than 45 days. So as on 31st March, whichever invoice is outstanding, I will mention more than 45 days, mention here number and the amount. And the last column is reason. If you mention the information in column number E or column number G, then you have to give a reason. Otherwise, you can mention NA. और जब हम रीजन की बात करते हैं ना, बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं सर हम क्या रीजन मेंशन करें. सो गाइस, एक्चुअल रीजन मेंशन करो कि व्हाई यू आर नॉट मेकिंग पेमेंट टू देम विद इन 45 days. डोंट मेंशन वी आर हैविंग द एग्रीड टर्म. इफ यू विल मेंशन वी आर हैविंग द एग्रीड टर्म मींस you are not following the proper MSME Act, because MSME Act is not allowing you to make payment after 45 days. So you have to mention the actual reason. If there is a dispute, mention that. If you don't have the fund, mention that. Whatever the other reason, mention the actual reasons in the reason column. So this is practically all about the MSME 1 Act. One more thing about, many people have asked how many entries we can mention in this Excel sheet. So this Excel sheet is allowing you to mention 999 entries. If in your case, you have to mention the entry more than 999, then I have one suggestion. It's not mentioned under law. This is only my personal view. Then you can do one thing, 999 entry mention in this Excel sheet and upload it. And entries which are more than 999, prepare a separate Excel sheet and attach in the form. This process you can use to mention the entry more than 1000. So this is all about the MSME 1 form. So MSME 1 form data, whenever we will prepare, we will not consider the medium vendor. We will just consider the micro and small, and which are registered under manufacturer and trader, manufacturer and services. Now, many times people ask how we will check whether a vendor is registered under MSME or not. So first way to check, you can ask the copy of the invoice. If you will check the copy of the invoice, maximum time vendors are mentioning on the invoice itself whether they are registered under MSME or not. If they have mentioned on the invoice itself they are registered under MSME, so your query will be clear. But if you are not getting information for in some vendors whether they are registered or not, just send a mail to them whether you are registered under MSME or not, please inform us with the certificate. If we don't receive your reply within 15 days, 20 days, we will consider you are not registered. Send this mail to all the vendors, keep it in your record. Because as an auditor, when you will do audit, that time you want the proof that company have checked whether the vendor is registered or not. So that mail can help you as a proof. So this is all about on the, we can say, MSME Act from my side. If anyone have any query, you can mention. I can see there are the 4 or 5 queries are mentioned here in the chat box. Still, I will ask to other person if you are having more queries. Please don't feel hesitate. Just ask your queries. I'm just taking the queries which in front of me. Whether detail of the MSME vendor as registered trader will be included in the MSME 1 because trading vendors are not eligible to see. I have already given the answer of this question. Again, I'm giving the answer of this question, Soumyaji, that ministry have issued a circular last year. As per circular, they have clarified that if a vendor is registered under MSME as a trader, then they will not get the benefit of the 45 days as per section 15. So if they are not getting the benefit of section 15, we will not consider them for the MSME 1 form. Next question. An MSME vendor delivers services to the company but raise an invoice after 45 days of the providing service. Should this be reported? See, now this is between you and the vendor. Generally, Act says you have to check 45 days from the date of acceptance of goods and services. But generally in the service industry, what happened when we receive the invoice, now we consider that our services has been completed. So practically in the practical, everyone is doing, you can consider the date of invoice. But if you consider the date of service also, that is not a wrong thing. If a company has no due to MSME, then as per provision also to be filed. See, if you don't have any MSME registered vendor, then definitely you don't have to file. But if you have even a single MSME vendor, then whether you have made payment within time or not, whether it is outstanding, still you have to file this form as we have discussed in detail. Ministry definitely should come with a clarification or changes in the MSME 1 form so that it is in correlation with the section. Next, last question. If anyone have any other query, please ask. Otherwise, we have to end after the last 2 questions we are having. If we are mentioning now, also still it is error while uploading. Sorry, we have received question from the Patwari associate, but sorry, sir, I'm not getting your question. Can you please clarify this? I'm taking next question meantime. As per the instruction, we say number of transaction which is not clearly defined. Then how we are considering it is number of invoice. See, number of transaction with a vendor is number of invoice only. How you will consider the transaction with vendor if there is no invoice? And this we can say this provision we are discussing because if whether we have made the payment of the invoice or not. So invoice is our core thing in this whole discussion. So definitely we have to take on the number of invoice only. Next question. If the MSME vendor, MSME certificate, but turnover of 50 crores, so there any criteria? See, MSME criteria are there on the MSME side and the criteria recently has been changed. So accordingly criteria, you have to see whether your vendor is falling under micro and small and accordingly you have to report on them. As per section, we are required to report only the amount outstanding. Reason for delay. So will it be okay if you only fill this column? See, Pankaj, definitely, as I have discussed in the session also, this section is definitely only asking about the outstanding after 45 days and payment made after 45 during the half year. So if only 2 transaction is section is asking, other 2 transaction form is asking. If you file form with the only those 2 transactions, definitely that is not a non-compliance of the laws. In any case, in future, you receive any notice or something, you can definitely give a reply to them. Next, NA is reason column, but it is shown an error while uploading. Sir, practically I have mentioned NA in many forms and we have uploaded the form. They are getting upload. If you still getting error, so definitely you know V3 having still some error. You can download the sheet again, prepare it again and try to file it. Practically is getting resolved. So guys, hope you get the benefit from this webinar and your queries has been resolved from this webinar. Still, anyone have any question, any query you can mention. And after last webinar, many people asked for the presentation and detailed article. So I have published this on my blog, that is csdiveshgoyal.com. You can go on my vlog and click on the blog button. There you can get the complete this article, detailed article MSME 1. Even along with that, many other articles are published on my blog. You can anytime go through them and read them. So hope all the queries of the person has been clear. If you still have any query, please feel free to ask your query through the WhatsApp. Also, you can ask the query. We will try our best to resolve the